I have been ordering food online since 2016, and what you see here on the screen are two food delivery apps which I like using. So when I was back in India, I used to use Swiggy app quite frequently to order food, and when I moved to Netherlands, I started using Just Eat Takeaway. In this video, I wanted to compare the experiences on both the apps. Now, all right, let's begin. So here's the first screen that I wanted to compare, which is the launch screen. When you select the app icon and the screen is launching for the first time, there are obvious differences in the way Just Eat Takeaway is doing versus Swiggy. As you enter the launch screen of Swiggy, although you have multiple choices, they do have a highlight on food delivery. So at least you can say they are still focused on food delivery primarily. Now, in the Just It one, it's pretty simple. You launch the screen, you directly are on the list page. I wanted to show an interesting bit here on how Swiggy has got a lot of scrolls in order to see the list of restaurants. So I'm going to switch to my short video that I had recorded here. As you open this app, you have the launch screen itself with multiple options, and as you select food, let's say you want to order food, you get some offers at the top, and then you have multiple groupings of what food you would like to be eating. Then there is a spotlight section, then you have what's on your mind, and then comes the list of restaurants. Now compare that to Just Eat experience. In Just Eat Takeaway, you have one single scroll on the launch screen, and all you're doing is just going through the entire screen, which has multiple options. So it's slightly different experience for both Swiggy and Just Eat Takeaway. It will be hard to say just by looking at it whether Swiggy is better or Just Eat is better. Once you have selected which restaurant you would like to eat from, you may have a bunch of filters and you may have done that. You would go to the restaurant details card. When I compare Just Eat and Swiggy, I can see a lot of similarities. One of the things that I noticed is both have emphasis on the image. The image is almost always high quality, because you first eat food with eyes, and I think that principle follows. If the food doesn't look appetizing, there's very less chance you're going to be ordering that. So there is emphasis on image, which you can see in the proportion. The second thing I see is the restaurant name is highlighted. So as you can see, Tandoori Express in takeaway app and Asha Tiffins in Swiggy. Both of them have highlighted the same aspect. Ratings are also highlighted, which is 4.5 here, 4.6 here. And then there are two, three aspects which are also common, which is the delivery time required. So that's same as in Swiggy, and then you have free delivery. In Swiggy, it is so prominent that you can see probably the most captivating factor here is that 50% discount, and immediately after that you have free delivery. So it's very interesting to see how the emphasis is placed on what would customer want. There are two competing aspects, and both of them are targeted to the price point here. So 50% off, free delivery, all towards you can order this food in the minimal cost as possible. Another thing I noticed, which is kind of unique to Swiggy, and this probably is because of the cultural context, they have highlighted pure veg. Pure veg means they do not eat meat, fish included, or eggs. And so these are pure vegetarian people. And so that is important to highlight because it is a religious affiliation. And without knowing that, most people may not order from a place if they're pure vegetarians. So this is something that I noticed, which is every application will end up having some key insight from their market, from their customers, and try to highlight that. So, in all, I think their way of communicating information is pretty similar. The design language is very different, but the attributes are kind of same. Next thing is to see item selection. Item selection is just a list of all the menu items that the restaurant is offering, and then you going and making the decision in what to select and what to choose. Notice the difference between the way Just Eat does and Swiggy does. The almost first half of the page, the whole section right here, right, they have dedicated to the information about the restaurant, which I find very interesting. Compare that to the Just Eat one. You see, the information is still the same, right? You still get to know the name of the restaurant, the ratings, and the delivery time. That's all there, but the visual spacing and the amount of space it has taken on the screen is very different. Then you go to the next section, which is listing of the menu items. Now, in the listing of the menu items, The approach is still the same. You have some categories for every menu that you have. So Swiggy uses recommended as a category, whereas Just It uses popular as a category. The idea is same. You may want to make the customer order something which is popular. One interesting thing to note here is when you come on JustEat Takeaways page, you directly see the first item in one within one scroll, within one viewport. So butter chicken shows right after a little bit of information, whereas in Swiggy, I had to do one scroll of the viewport. So I had to scroll once in order to get to the listing. Not big of a deal because when you're on a phone, you're just always in the mode of scrolling. So this is not going to deter anyone from not ordering. These are very minor things, but it is interesting to notice how the information emphasis is placed in different applications. In the item selection phase, what you are also doing is selecting an order and customizing it. Both apps offer the same experience of customization. When you're doing customizations, it's important to highlight the price point. Come to the next section where you go to the basket. It's called basket, it's called cart. I think I have not seen any other words apart from basket and cart. These are the same terminologies that you use in physical stores. If you go to a supermarket, you get a cart, and that's what has translated in the online experience. It's basically just your order review page where you see what is there in your cart. I think both of them have similar approaches, although I find Swiggy to be much more focused on highlighting this, free delivery, highlighting offers. Now, what is the impact of this on the business value? I am not sure. And what do I mean by that? When you are offering a lot more free stuff to the customer, you could be acquiring that customer on that aspect, which is this is free, this is cheap. But when you actually want to monetize your product, it could be harder to get the same customers to pay you, because once you start giving something for free, it's very hard to go back to the same customers and say, well, now you have to pay. I think it has to be a very careful approach, and you need to have a different plan to monetize your product, even though you think, I want to keep doing free delivery or I want to keep giving offers on the orders. I come to the last page. This is the one where you are looking for payments. Now, payment screens typically tend to be the same. You have standard choices supported by the region that you are in. So, for example, in India, as you can see, we have an option to pay via UPI, and it's good that the applications present you with these choices, and that just increases your chances of completing the payment. I have observed that whenever you have a checkout experience, it's important to have as many payment choices as you possibly can add. Now, if you observe, the design language is obviously different, and I find this page the most intriguing one to look at it. If you observe, there is an option to add button is a small one here, add button is a big one here. Now, when a product manager works on some products like this in collaboration with designers, what typically you're looking for is these small iterations that you can do in the product that can give you an incremental value. And so it is possible that this button is kind of obscure. So you may want to bring it out in the open. As you can notice here, the price point in so let's compare this, right? So you have peri peri chicken with egg corn rice, and the price is 239 euros, 239 rupees, and the name of the item is much bigger than the cost. The next thing that you see is probably the rating, which is 4.4. Compare that to butter chicken here. The most prominent element in this item is 19.5 euros. And it's a different approach. Every product may want to experiment. Do I want to show cost as prominent? Do I want to show photo as prominent? Do I want to focus on add button as prominent? And you can only learn with experimentation by trying out new things, A/B tested. My experience with Just Eat Takeaway and Swiggy in terms of getting the order delivered has been consistent. They have been able to deliver on what their core value proposition is. They're looking at the design of their application and how they get the user to eventually order is quite interesting. And you can see it's very clear, depending on the market, how the application has responded, and how there are similarities in the food delivery business, and yet you can have some unique flavors or unique aspects to your product. But the question here is not really about which is better in terms of design or looks for food delivery kind of business, you will almost never choose a product just because they look good. They have to also be able to deliver the food you like. It was fun checking out both these applications and comparing their experiences. And that's it for the video.